Good evening, everyone. Those night owls, thanks for joining me and Ray, who've both just got in. Different things, but and we weren't together, in case you were wondering. We were on other ends of the city, but yeah, we want to keep giving you some boxing insight 5 days a week, or is it 6 days a week? So,
something like that.
Yeah. Big up to our sponsors who you've just seen their video, D-Rock. Remember, you can get 40% off at D-Rock using iBoxingHub 24. Evening, Tony Ellis. RnR, yeah, the sub R. That is Sugar Ray. Rico, God bless him. He suffered a bereavement, I think it was a week ago. So,
condolences.
Time. So, you know, R.I.P. to Rico's beloved aunt, and we hope he gets through this this tragic time in his whenever he's ready. But yeah, it's a bit of a quiet period for boxing. Summer always is, I guess. Even promoters need a holiday, but despite that, with all that money coming in, they managed to put on a show. We've got one this weekend at York Hall. I was at the press conference for it today. Relatively quiet because it's still sort of, I would say, domestic level. No, but no big names. But I think there's some interesting fighters on that Queensberry card at York Hall. The main event in particular, Denzel Bentley against Derek Osazi. So that is British Ghanaian against British Nigerian.
Come on, British GH in the building, we're here.
Yeah, so Ray, you got to be all over this. You're a fan of Denzel?
Fan of Denzel Bentley. He's annoyed me in some fights. However, I'm a root for him regardless. But I feel like with him, he's his own worst enemy. A lot of the time, I feel like he beats himself more than he gets actually beaten. So, as long as he's able to stay out of his own way in regards to how he chooses to fight, he'll be fine. But I feel like they're saying I don't think this is his level. I think his level is higher than this. It's just the issue, like I said, going back. What he's done sometimes, he goes into a fight and then he just has a firefight for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I've watched him and I just thought to myself, you don't have to fight like this. You've got physical advantages over some of these boxers. You go in there, you have a firefight, and then the issue with a firefight is that you can get burnt. And that's what happens to him because, listen, all that talk that Janabek had been a boogeyman before, when Denzel Bentley went in there and faced him, Denzel showed that, yeah, I can hang at that level. And that was on a short turnaround. So I feel like even his last loss in the British title fight, once again, that was him entering a firefight he didn't need to. So I feel like what he needs to do now is just to have fights like this to separate himself, to let the UK know, like, listen, I'm doing this as a keep busy. This isn't my level. And go back, whether it's European or whether it's world, but UK is not his level.
Bukayo Saka is asking, is he on the same level as Shiraz and the other guy from the UK? If you're talking about Tyler Denny, the European champ, I think Denzel was at least on his level. Absolutely. Shiraz, see, I don't know. We don't know yet what Shiraz's level is. So
Shiraz is on the incline, so we can't exactly say just yet until he keeps on facing, good opposition. Ammo Williams was a good guy to fight, and he looked good, impressive against him. So keeping Shiraz out of it and letting him just do what he needs to do, I feel like we'll find out soon where Denzel's level is. I think a European fight would be I'd love that match for him. And unfortunately, he didn't get to have that European fight against Denny, but timing's everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said Shiraz is on the way up still. I mean, I still think Denzel is in his prime, and I still think, based on what we saw last time against Dignam, I think he is still improving. Obviously,
sure.
point is not going to be dramatic, but I think he's, I've known Denzel, I wouldn't say personally, but in the boxing circuit, so since I've been doing this, John Trethery knows him personally, so he was one of the first fighters I sort of really got to speak to, and he is a good speaker, and I just get the impression he's constantly learning and improving. Yeah, and he will add small improvements each time. And against Dignam, I thought he was really impressive, and I think he might finally have found his style that works for him best. That is be a pure boxer puncher. Like you said, no point in him trying to be an out and out puncher and try and go to war with people. He's
I think it's portrayed him one too many times to the point I'm just like, please, I'm begging you, stop getting into unnecessary firefights.
Yeah, and I think that at least 2 out of the 3 defeats he's had, he would avenge them quite conclusively now.
Yeah,
Cash that Cash defeat is looking more and more suspicious. I mean,
that is looking very suspicious.
Cash has never looked that sort of a puncher again. He's shown shaky punch resistance himself since against non-punchers. So it's I think
Shout out for Denzel for bouncing right back after that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
People would have taken that type of beating and like went into hiding. He just said F it. Then came right back, and then he was just like, I'm here.
Absolutely. And not only did he come back, he actually was, I remember he was doing interviews like a week or so after. Yeah. So
that's character.
There's no doubt he's got tremendous mental strength, no mean amount of boxing ability. So to summarize it, Tony, I don't think this is his level. I think he, depending on who the world title holders are, I think he can win a world title. It will depend who the world champions are, but he can do it. What about Derek? Do you know anything about him? I spoke to him again today.
No, you will have to clue me in on this Derek fella.
He's only got the 1 defeat, and that was to Tyler Denny over 10 rounds.
Oh,
and that was in 2021. So I guess during the whole pandemic furore, he had been inactive for 2 years. Took the fight on I think a couple of weeks' notice. And yeah, he went the full 10 with Tyler Denny, and we've since seen how good Tyler Denny is. So in those circumstances, I think Derek Asazi might well be a lot better than people are presuming. Like I said, it's only the 1 defeat. He hasn't got many or any particular notable wins on his record because he never really sort of fully got out of the prospect stage.
You know who we're still rooting for, but I'm intrigued to what you're saying about this guy that is coming off. It sounds like it's a good matchup for both. Is almost that thing of Denzel, if you are who we think you should get through this.
Yeah.
And then is also like his opponent, you're saying he hasn't lived up to the potential, but if you still got something in there, this should be a fight to see if we can bring it out of you. Because this is a guy that will indulge you, that might indulge you in a way that, brings out the best in you.
Yeah. It's one of those situations where, having spoke to both men now, I'm sort of half rooting for both of them. Derek, he's actually a pastor as well.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
A very godly man. He was a prospect at one stage. He, couldn't get the fights, as a lot of prospects don't if you haven't got, a big promoter backing you. That's why to take the Denny fight in the circumstances he took it. He actually went from the 4 rounds straight to a 10-rounder. So he didn't even have like a proper build-up, like, moving to 6 rounds and then 8 rounds. From 4 rounders against journeyman to Tyler Denny. And
he's quite the jump.
He struggled to get fights since. So he might well be one of those guys that the matchmakers and the fighters on the circuit know that he's a very hard night's work, can make you look bad or beat you. But without any backing, he's not been able to get the fight. So Tony Ellis asked, is he young? I don't think so. I think he's 30.
Not young, not old.
Not old, but not young. Again, that's probably why he had to sort of just jump it straight into this. He's jumped several levels here going in with Jeff.
I mean, sometimes you see the opportunity, you take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to actually see him do well in this fight, well enough that he can be now in the middleweight mix. So just want to talk about that because Denzel will be right in there, presuming he wins. Tony Ellis has asked, who should he fight next? Want someone who is a credible name. So they're making a point that Denzel, after the Dignam win, was ranked by the WBO. Bless you.
Thank you.
And Hamza is ranked number 1 now
in WBO as well.
Dev Sani pointed this out, and I replied to him. I said, I hope Queensberry are not trying to make Hamza against Denzel at this
That'd
point.
Be very nasty.
I said, what I would rather that you do, make Hamza against Adames, because he's the number 1 for the WBC.
Yeah.
And then if Janibek is going to vacate, or if better still, Frank can work his magic with the WBO and tell him, look, he's failed to make weight last time and just pulled out the fight. He should be stripped. Then we can get Denzel against Shane Mosley Jr. for the vacant WBO. And I think our British fighters have a very good chance of winning both those fights. I don't think Adames he's no great shakes. He's by no means an easy fight either. He is a hard fight, but world title fights are meant to be hard. And I think Denzel can deal with Shane Mosley. If they both win, then you can put them together in a massive, massive fight. Yeah.
I'd say that's the best way to do it.
That's what I would think. But when I replied, I asked Denzel about that. Funnily enough, he said, yeah, I did read your tweet, but I thought I better not reply to it.
Understandably.
So that suggests to me, I think maybe that Frank does have that in mind to match them.
Boxing's a dirty game, man. I already know what.
Yeah, so I don't get why would they do that at this point when you've got potentially 2 beatable, world champions?
Listen, I still remember when Lyndon Arthur was under Frank Warren, and he was just saying when he beat Yard, he was just like, "I'll give Yard a rematch. Just let me please go for a world title shot, and then I'll face with Yard again if I get the world title," which I didn't think was unreasonable. I thought actually very fair.
Yeah.
With the momentum that Lyndon had at the time, and it was against Joe Smith, I was just like, that might be a winnable fight. And yeah, that'll make the rematch bigger. And then, the story goes as it goes. They screwed over Lyndon. They made him, he got himself into, he became number 1 contender, didn't he?
Yeah, because Yard was, as he always gets maneuvered into, the number 1 spot. So
yeah,
he could have taken his spot, and you're right, he could have challenged for, you might have been right.
Joe Smith Jr. It was Joe Smith Jr.
Like you said,
it was just like,
could absolutely have outboxed him. So what I don't get in this situation is, right, that they put Hamza in with Ammo Williams. That's an acid test of sorts.
Yeah.
Williams is he's shown he's quite the puncher. He's young and unbeaten himself and coming to win. And he got through that, and that was worthy of being a WBC final eliminator. And yet it looks like they're not keen on they're downplaying taking the Adames shot, and I just think, why? Adames hasn't shown that he's some sort of killer.
Probably in favor of the, you know how it goes, the boxing organization that you've got more favor with. Let's work our magic there. Got more, whether it's the judges or whether it's, you know, getting home advantage. He's probably just got more advantage going the WBO route than he does WBC. Even though, and Adames is he still with PBC?
Yeah, he is.
It might be just to be a case of we just want less boxing politics, so let's go down the route.
That would make sense. Only the other factor is Hamza is heavily backed by Turkey.
Yeah,
he's one of their ambassadors. I would have thought that, and you know, Riyadh Season have got this, you know, partnership with the WBC. We know what they're all about. I'm sure if he greases some of Suleiman's palms, you know how he likes holding hands.
But here's the thing. Remember, not all of these things are in Riyadh Season's hands. A lot of the time, I'm sure Frank still wants to do stuff off his own strength.
Yeah.
Just so that it's almost like that thing of Frank is smart enough to know I cannot depend on this guy, because if you become too dependent, then you're basically asking him permission all the time. You want to use him as a bank, but you don't want him to, you know.
Yeah, take
over.
He is very shrewd in that way. It's an odd one. I guess ultimately only they know what their line of thinking is there. But I do think it'll be a shame for both of them, because you know that if they went with my matchmaking ideas, I think the potential for that fight is just so much bigger. Anyway, well, we'll see how that goes. I expect Denzel to win and cement his place as a contender for that WBO title. Whether Janibek still has it or not, I don't know. Let's see what he does. And I would like Derek to put on a good enough performance to get in with that domestic mix, which is actually really good. Because you got Brad Pauls, lovely guy. I'm speaking to him this weekend. You got Heaney, of course, still in there. The loser of Denny and Shiraz, as I think it was Tony Ellis who mentioned, they'll be back in the mix. And you know, there's a couple of these, you know, upcomers as well, young prospects. So the middleweight division, I think domestically, some really good, interesting round.
It's building up.
And Linus Adofia, how could I forget him? Very good fight.
Oh yes. I was at that one for
the Denzel fight at the O2.
Yeah.
Oh right, so was I. But we didn't know each other back then. So,
that's crazy. We probably crossed paths.
Indeed, it's such a small venue, but yeah, let's see how that goes. It'll be intriguing to watch that one, the middleweight division, play out. Very interesting in England. The other fight I want to talk to you about on Saturday's card at Queensberry is Aloys Jr., the cruiserweight kid. Do you know much about him? He's, of course, of Congolese descent. So big up to our Congolese brothers.
Congo.
You know, Congo's rocking right now with Bacoli. But Aloys, he had what I still consider as one of the ballsiest debuts ever. He got called on 24 hours notice to come in as a replacement to fight another unbeaten, hard-hitting prospect. I mean, you just literally never get prospects do that.
Yeah.
Lost his first pro fight. He was an 18-year-old kid. And he went up against this Polish young puncher. And it was a 4-rounder, obviously. Pretty even. He got dropped in, I think, the first round. Came firing back. But in the end, it was the knockdown that cost him. But he's been going from strength to strength. And... he's being built up in the hot cruiserweight scene here in the UK. Have you seen much of him? He trains out of Ben Davidson's gym.
Oh, okay. That's. Do you know what's so funny with Ben Davison? That name elicits so many different emotions. Because at first it was just like, oh, the guy that got Tyson Fury back in shape. Then it became boxer size Ben. Then he helped restore a lot of people. Whether it was his name escapes my mind. Not Nottingham fighter.
Lee Wood.
Class, not Lee Wood, yes. Then he helped restore Lee Wood after he stopped the fight, and now is kind of like he's become the guy again. Obviously, what he's done with AJ, so it was always interesting, like the whole I don't know. It's like, what is the verdict on Ben Davison?
You know what? I would say go by what the fighters say. Now, Shabazz Masood, who's his super bantamweight fighter, he swears blind that Ben's the best coach in the world. Now, Shabazz is probably an interesting case because he's probably the first fighter that Ben took from early on in his career. Not from the beginning. I think his first couple of fights he just trained with Uncle Askey, but then I think Askey actually might have recommended he goes to Ben.
Yeah.
And he swears blind. Aloys Jr., I remember speaking to him for his first couple of fights before he went to Ben Davison. And then when I saw him, I think it was when he just moved to Ben Davison, and he said, wow, the stuff they teach you here is next level. And he's very happy, super confident in his abilities now. So I think Ben Davison, Bazza Smith, who of course is a guest here on iBoxingHub now and again, so big up to Bazza, and Lee Wiley, I think they are good. It might, like any sort of coach, that there might be certain personality types or certain,
of course,
styles that work with them, but yeah, certainly those two fighters swear blind by what they're learning there. So,
I can't. Then I'll be intrigued to see that, because I think a lot of the time you just want to see, if you don't know too much about it, you want to know about the background of, okay, so who's he trained with, who's his trainer, what's his past. So what he's saying is sounding promising in regards to who he is as a person. Like he said, he had his first loss, and then after that he's been going strength to strength. So it'll be interesting to see. And these are the brilliant type of cards where you want to see guys like that, where it's just like under the bright lights of York Hall, let's see how you shine. And for those that don't know about the historic York Hall venue, it's like, it's small, but there's a lot of history in there. So you always want to make sure that you do it correct. Yeah.
And Bukayo Saka's making two good points. Ituma is now there. I mean, Moses, he's, believe you me, he's no ordinary teenager. He's wise beyond his years. If he weren't learning stuff with Ben Davison, he wouldn't be hanging around there. So, I think that's a great match because...
Is that a conflict of interest with AJ being there, or do you think AJ will be long gone by the time Atuma's reaches the high level?
I mean, Ituma is targeting Mike Tyson's record, which means he's aiming to be heavyweight champion by May next year.
He's not going to get thrown into the deep end.
It really does. It might be a conflict of interest.
Unless the only thing I can presume is that Davison just trains them at different times, but it's still a bit of a conflict.
Yeah, well, if Ituma does become heavyweight champ as quickly as he wants, then it definitely will be a conflict of interest, because AJ's not looking to retire
anytime
within the next year. I mean, yeah. Anyway, look, they'll work it out.
That's for them. Yeah, that's for them to sort out, not me.
Have you seen much of Aloys yourself?
No, I haven't. I
mean, well, this is an interesting step up because his opponent, Birardi, He's a German-based Italian. I spoke to him today as well. He's 8-0 with 6 knockouts.
Okay,
And,
sounds promising. Sounds like a banger.
promising. What was more interesting was he had 150 amateur fights, was twice European runner-up, multiple times champion in both Italy and Germany. But I think that the twice European runner-up and 150 amateur fights, that is the more intriguing thing, because as you know, 8-0 with 6 KOs, there's a lot of prospects who can be padded up to that record. But I think he's for real. So this is a serious test. I think he will probably be, and Aloys admitted it, that he'll probably be the most technically adept fighter he's come across. So
in a shallow division like cruiserweight, you don't need too much to get you to the point where you're knocking on the title shot.
Yeah, well, he says he's targeting his stablemate, Queensberry stablemate, Tommy Fletcher, who is the 6'7" southpaw beanpole who trains with Mark Tibbs. He's a huge puncher.
Okay.
So they're two very contrasting young punchers. One tall and gangly, and Aloys who's short and stocky. So that'll be a real that'll be a barn burner, and it'll have an added bit of spice in that Mark Tibbs and Ben Davison will be in opposite corners.
Yeah, because I was just about to say that
they've had a bit of they might have had a bit of a falling out from their time.
History.
Cornering Billy Joe Saunders. So yeah, keep your eyes on that. Other than that, there's a few other prospects. It's a prospect show, a couple of debutantes. But yeah, hey, that's Saturday night, the only televised show this weekend from England,
UK wise.
Yeah, the other show I want to talk about is the Top Rank show over in Quebec, Canada.
One of my favorite cities. Shout out to 514. Well, Montreal, Montreal. Shout out to 514. They know me out there. Twice.
All right.
Twice brilliant.
Where's Mr. Styles when we need him? He's Mr. Canada for us, isn't he? But okay. In Quebec City, and Mbili Derevenchenko. Interesting because it's super middleweight. I think Mbili might be ranked in the top 3 for a couple of guys.
So he's up there in a couple of the boxing boards.
Yeah, so interesting because I guess this will tell us whether he's a suitable and likely opponent for my favorite guy at the moment in boxing, Canelo Alvarez.
Enemies are friends.
Yeah, and Billy Bukaya saying he's meaty. I don't know if that means he's a drunk.
He's mediocre.
Is that
meaty is mediocre, short for mediocre?
Oh, is it? Wow. Thanks for educating me on some of the youth terminology. And Billy is meaty. Okay, so would you agree with Bukaya on that? Is he just a high volume pressure fighter?
I think now we're gonna find out. This is the right. I hate saying this about fighters, but this is actually legitimate. This is a gatekeeper, and looking good against Derevenchenko is always an indication of where you would go. There's a lot of like brilliant fighters that have faced him and beaten him and gone on to win the title. So was that super middleweight or was that middleweight though? At middleweight, he was a gatekeeper, shall I say it. At super middleweight, is he just a past it person that's got a name? As harsh as it sounds.
Yeah.
At middleweight, he was always the gatekeeper of like, if you beat him, you get a title shot. Whereas super middleweight, I don't know if his name still holds that same weight where if you beat him, then it's just like, oh my gosh, Sergey is a tough outing for anyone. So getting a win over him is a big deal. Whereas now, 2024, payday.
Yeah, Hatman did a video about it earlier today, and he was saying at this point, Derevenchenko is his motivation going to be there? Because he's been on the wrong end of house decisions at this point in his career. Is he just going to go through the motions and pick up his
Go
paycheck?
through the motions, get a paycheck. I don't know when this stops. I'm hoping that, you know, he's got enough saved to, you know, pivot into something else and hold him down. But yeah, this sounds like a paycheck. It sounds like, you know, a little, this guy's going to be the future. So let me just get in front of it, get a nice paycheck for being a guy that is going to build his name off of. Hopefully top rank, compensate him nicely. And, you know, when Billy is like, he's probably seen Belanga get this fight with Canelo, and he's just thinking to himself, with Benavidez gone, with Morrell gone, which I still think is the wrong decision, but that's a conversation for another day. And Billy might be like, I am the next person in line. And my goodness, is this division starting to look dry?
I'm not as negative as you. I mean, do you think? Well, for a start, and Billy's with Top Rank, so that'll keep Canelo out of Turkey's hands for a bit longer. But isn't he just the sort of guy that Canelo wants, though? Again, he's not going to be slick. He's not going to be a mover. He'll be sort of standing and punch it up.
He's basically, yeah, he's probably going to have to cross the street. Top Rank ain't averse to working with PBC. So, you know, they're probably just going to be like, all right, you know how it is with Canelo, your B-side, but I actually, because boxing has so many smoke and mirrors, I wonder if Canelo's still getting the big paydays he says he gets in regards to flat rate, not terms of concessions and all that type of live gate stuff he's always going to do. But there's a big pay-per-view fatigue right now. There's a lot of fights happening that are pay-per-view that are not pay-per-view worthy. And I'm just thinking to myself, is Canelo really doing numbers like that to justify some of the figures that come out when they, you know, they're like, oh, you know, Canelo's getting 30 million for this fight. And if he is, I'm not saying that he's not, but I'm saying right now, how realistic is it when he's facing the Belangas of the world, when he's facing the, what was his last fight again?
Damn, shows how much we've zoned out of him.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like we don't. Munguia.
Yeah.
That might have. I guess if it was maybe in LA, I guess. But even like Munguia's Mexican fans, does he really have a big following, or did we overestimate how much Munguia actually draws? But the point being is, there's no face of boxing no more. There's just faces of areas, and I know people try to do this. Oh, but so-and-so's got these millions and everything. Your numbers won't decrease from when you was at your prime, well, not too much anyway. Once your numbers have gone up in terms of like social media presence, let's say at the height of Canelo's fame, it got to like, I don't know, let's say 15 million. It's not exactly going to be like, because he's becoming less popular in terms of his fights, it's not going to go down to like 9 million. It's still going to be up there. But not a true indication of, does Canelo still move the needle in North America like he used to? And I refuse to believe that he does, given the opponents that he's facing. The law of just seeing Canelo for the sake of seeing Canelo is gone now. And I just don't feel like a lot of the figures that are getting put out there saying, oh, so-and-so is making this, that, and the third. I don't believe it. It's the same way, like when Mayweather used to say some of his figures, I'm just like, this is lies. It's lies. I'm sorry. I've grown up now.
I think you're right. It is all just as you said, a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. It's propaganda. What you said though about crossing the street, is Canelo even with PBC? I thought, wasn't it just free fights and then he's free again?
The way I see it is, PBC allows him the freedom to do what he wants. PBC also need money, so they're like, wherever you want, you can do it here. So it's like, you know, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I think that's what it is with PBC. It's just like, here it is. There's this, like, everything's laid out for you if you want it. Canelo's like, cool. I don't have to do the heavy lifting on that side of things. They've got to deal with Amazon, which I don't feel is really, in all honesty, I just don't understand how boxing's not in a good space viewership wise, and no
Yeah.
one's everyone, like, obviously we've got the big fights that we've wanted in terms of like Fury and Usyk. Outside of Fury and Usyk, what fights are being made that's really drawing the general crowd? There is none. And then if you making all these Riyadh season cards pay-per-view, maybe not for us, but in the States, it's kind of just like it's gonna be pay-per-view fatigue. Like they're making Gervonta Davis look like a saint now. He doesn't look like him, and the PBC don't look as. Who would have thought that Turkey's making the PBC look like they're angelic? They make the PBC look like they're saving boxing, but I don't, being stead right and saying, no, we're not going to join you. Even though, ironically, I always used to think, if anybody needs the injection package of Turkey, it is PBC. But, Uncle Al said, I'll go down with this ship, so that ship is gonna go down. Fair enough. Shout out Uncle Al.
I told you, anyone who's rude to me, that's a sign of low character. So Uncle Al, he could tell someone was off. A couple of other fights on that card before we wrap up are interesting. Osles Iglesias, this Cuban super middleweight. If you look at the world rankings at super middleweight, it seems to be a couple of these Cubans who no one's ever heard of, but they're climbing up. But Iglesias, he's been starching out people that other prospects, including prospects like Pacheco, have sort of gone the distance with. Last time out, he starched someone in a round that gave Pacheco some work. So he's in a
hurry to get to the top.
Yeah, well, I guess as a Cuban, his technical fundamentals are probably on point and doesn't need to learn much about boxing per se in that sense.
I was gonna say it's quite opposite. Normally, Cubans are the ones that a lot of decisions they just technically outclass you, and then they go about business. But if you're saying that he's going out there and starching, all right.
Yeah, I get it. Like Morel, he's a bit different. So he's on the card, so that'll be interesting. The heavyweight fight, Makhmudov against Vianello. Bit of a crossroads fight. Two guys that for different reasons were hyped up. Vianello because of his amateur background, Makhmudov because he had that image as the big Russian bear, and both have both been exposed significantly of late.
And you think this is just Top Rank matching them to see if they can get a firefight out of the two? Almost like we can't get much out of you guys, so let's see if we can get a firefight.
The thing is, the way Vianello fights, I don't think his fights are ever. I think it's more a case of sink or swim. Like one of you gets dumped from this. So
it's a cruel sport, man. It's a cruel sport.
It is. Yeah, it would be interesting. Like I said, at one point, Makhmudov, he was, getting invited to Riyadh season, and seeing him get stopped.
Now we're here.
Yeah, that really is really made his stock drop. But then Vianello, he was getting draws with journeyman and what have you. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it might be intriguing simply because both of them are the sort of guys that are going to end up in the C tier with people like Joe Joyce. Yeah.
I don't even want to say nothing about Joe Joyce.
So yeah, that's why it might be interesting. That I think that either of them, winner and loser, we will see more of them. I could see either of them getting fed to some of the upcoming prospects as well. So
That's how it goes.
that,
Let's
that,
just
that
hope they saved up their money because they're gonna need it.
all right. Well, I'll be watching that with perverse intrigue. And lastly on that card, Abdullah Mason. People say this kid is
The young prospect.
the best prospect in America. I think he's at lightweight, so he's only 19 or 20 years old. It's an 8-rounder, okay, so not yet ready to step into title contention.
Nah, they're not even trying to step up Keyshawn for title just yet. Even though I still feel like they should make Keyshawn fight. I keep on forgetting the Ukrainian belt holder's name at 155. So obviously Shakur's got one belt, Davis has the other.
Barinchik.
That's the one.
Apparently, this is one of the rumors. His Excellency has shoehorned him in for
Shakur.
No, Mark Chamberlain, his favourite. I was wondering why Mark Chamberlain's got such a duff opponent on the September card. Yeah.
How has he become the best friend of Turkey?
Yeah, it's so off key, isn't it? But we don't know what goes on in those.
Listen, man, the plot thickens. When everyone thought it would just be a good idea for Turkey to take over, I always said absolute power corrupts absolutely. The sport needs balance, and it's never good that one person has all the power. As good as it may seem at first, eventually it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But shout out Abdullah Mason. Let's give the guy time, let him just build, and we'll see what happens from there. But America's producing some great 135ers.
Yeah, 135 to 154. I still think the best fighters are in that weight range, and I still think most of them are American.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was it for this weekend. Again, like I said, graveyard shift. So thanks for joining me straight after work. I guess you'll be dreaming about boxing now, because whatever you had on your mind before you go to bed, that'll stay on your mind in your dreams. So
I was gonna say that there's a certain fight organization of a combat sport that's also gonna be on this weekend, but let me not get into the bad grace of the boxing community. So no comment.
All right. Well, people who are interested, I'm sure will know what you're talking about.
Indeed.
All right. Ray, absolute pleasure as always. Thank you for joining. Thanks to everyone who stayed up late. And we will try and be back on a civilized time next week. But until then, have a good weekend and look out for some of the content that I might be able to bring you from York Hall.
Blessings, people. Check it out.
Good night, everyone.
It's another bang. All the Muslim cars now with your bag it up. Light up my card with a sweet one, please. Someone flicks me a bag it up. So, it's another one, yeah, it's a full strand.